Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. A little cold in this t-shirt now, so I'm trying to warm up with my hot drink. I'll get a sweatshirt in a minute, it's fine. So today's video is going to be my November TBR. You know the drill, we're just going to be talking about all the books that I'm planning on reading in November. I'm actually going to do a much shorter TBR than I usually do because I have been reading a little bit slower recently just because I've been really busy, so I haven't been sitting down and reading. So it seems like the only reading I'm doing is at night before I go to bed or via audiobook. And that may change because, you know, November also has some holidays coming up, but I just kind of wanted to take the pressure off and do a shorter TBR. And then if I finish it, I can pick up whatever I feel like. But there are a couple of books that either just released or will be releasing in November that I really want to read. But yeah, so let's just get into today's video and I can talk about the books that I'm planning on reading in November. So the first one I'm planning on reading, I started a little bit but never finished from September, and so I'd really like to finish that in November, is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Because what I did read of it, I did like, but I didn't get into it enough to truly get a vibe for it. But the premise is really interesting to me, and so I would really like to finish this. Basically what this book is about is you're following the main character who's kind of seen as like cursed because her parents died when she was born and all of her caretakers since have died mysteriously kind of throughout her whole life. So everybody believes she's cursed. In her new current home, they're starting to get sick and starting to die, and she kind of figures out that they're being poisoned. And so she's trying to like delve into this mystery of who's doing this poisoning, why this is happening to her, etc. And in order to try to solve it, she teams up with Death, who is like death personified. So he's this, you know, magical entity that is death. And he has an interest in her because I think it's kind of like death has avoided her because death has been around her but hasn't taken her, kind of a thing. So it sounds really interesting and really fun. I've heard people say really good things about this, or at least mostly positive things about it, and I'm just really curious about it. I did like Adeline Grace's previous work, but her second book kind of fell flat for me in the All the Stars and Teeth duology, so I hope that I will like this more. It's a much different vibe. But yeah, I really want to finish this because I started it and it's bothering me. The next one that I'm really, really desperate to read to find out how it ends is Cursed by Marissa Meyer. I believe this comes out November 8th, and so it's going to be at the beginning of November, which is good. And this is the second book in the Gilded duology. Very, very anxious to finish the duology and figure out what happens in this story. So I really want to read Cursed. If you don't know what Gilded is about, it is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling where the main character basically has this affinity for making up stories or lying, and she ends up encountering the Wild Hunt and the Earl King, and she ends up lying to him and telling him that she knows how to spin straw into gold, and then he goes, "Oh really?" and comes back and kind of takes her. It's an invitation, but like you have to accept it. So he takes her back to his castle because he's kind of like a spirit, so it's the Wild Hunt, so they can only come back to the world on certain nights, so I think with the moon phases and stuff. Anyway, he comes back, he takes her to his castle, and he's like, "Spin some straw into gold, you have until morning or you're done." And so she kind of tries to get through that and maybe has some help. And the story was dark, gruesome, tense, but also kind of fun. So it was kind of odd, but it was a really good story. I really like Marissa Meyer as an author. I've liked everything I've read from her so far. Pretty sure I've read everything she's written so far except for Karma, which is a contemporary, so that's not really my vibe. So I've really enjoyed the story so far, and the cliffhanger ending was nuts and scary. And I have no idea how she's gonna pull out of that in the second book, but we'll see how she does it, and that's why I'm very curious to see how she kind of wraps up the story. Another one that I'm really hoping to get to in November is The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. As you can see, I got my Illumicrate edition in, so that's gonna be a little bit of a spoiler for whenever I do a book haul next. But I read The Atlas 6 earlier this year, and I did like it. I liked it more than I thought I would, to be honest. And I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook because it is a full cast, and I'm planning on doing that again because I pre-ordered the audiobook because it was on sale for like $8 or less, so I went ahead and got it. So I plan on listening to it also, but I'm curious to see how this story is going to continue. I know she did announce recently that there's a third book and announced the title, which I can't remember at the moment. But I don't know if it's a trilogy or a series beyond that. I guess we'll find out soon. But yeah, with how the last book left off, I'm curious to see how the story is going to continue and the direction she's going to take it in. So I would like to read this as well, which might be cool to have some dark academia vibes in November. Oh, if you don't know what the Atlas 6 is about, Oh, if you don't know what the Atlas 6 is about, you're following 6 different perspectives, and they are basically all propositioned to join the Alexandrian society. And so they kind of go into this, I think it's kind of pitched as a competition, but it's really not a competition. They're just kind of invited to come and study there. They're kind of invited to study there and then hopefully win a place within the society. However, 6 of them go in and only 5 can remain, so one of them has to be eliminated. And the elimination may be more gruesome than they think. So yeah, I did really enjoy it, surprisingly. I'm curious to see how she's going to continue it. The next one that I'm very anxious to get to as well is the second book in the Court of Dragons series, which is Queen of Legends by Frost K. This comes out November 10th, so it'll still be early enough that I think I can get to it, especially if I'm waiting for 2 of these books to come out, the 8th and then the 10th. And then I'll have the other 2 books to work through before then. But anyway, if you don't know what Court of Dragons is, essentially you're following this main character who lives on this island where they have all of the dragons. So that's kind of like their big political move, is they have a lot of naval ships, so they have a lot of like trade because they are an island, and they have these dragons. So everybody kind of envies them, wants this power, but they've been able to control it thus far because they have the dragons and have had peace with the elves until the eve of her wedding, when her island is attacked and she is kidnapped by one of the princes of the Elf King and taken back to the Elven land, where she is then forced to marry him. And this book took me by surprise. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. There's dragon content, of course, but the marriage trope itself was like no spice, which I really appreciated. And the political tension that she's facing as she's on enemy territory and trying to get back home to reclaim her island. And the way it ended was actually kind of cliffhangery, kind of just intense. I'm very curious to see where she's going to take this story as well. I have no idea how many books are in it, so this could be the last one. It could be a series of 3 or more books. I have no idea. And I was actually really concerned that this book wasn't coming out because the author hadn't been on like any social media or made any announcements since May. And she like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I'm not even kidding, posted something, and I had asked previously if the book was still coming out on November 10th, and they said yes it is. So my sanity is restored. Because yeah, I'm really curious to see how the story continues. I really enjoyed it when I read it and really want to know what happens, so hopefully I'll be able to get to that as well. And the next and final book will just be my shelf pick for November. I've been doing not a great job with my shelf picks the past couple of months. I haven't been able to finish them, so I narrowed my TBR, and I will add a shelf pick to make up for it a little bit in the hopes that I can finish it. All right. Sometimes I don't want to pick the ones on top. I don't know why. Okay, so I got the City of Dusk. So let me go ahead and grab that. I have my Fairy Loot edition here. So I was actually really curious about this book. I'm not sure I'm in the mood for it, but that's okay, because maybe it'll be a really unexpected surprise. So City of Dusk by Tara Sim was the draw. I was really intrigued by this book. I did buy a copy of it when it first released in paperback, and then I got a copy in Fairy Loot, so I was like, well, hopefully I really like it. But from what I remember of this, yeah, on the back it says, for each realm there is a god, and for each god there is an heir. And from what I remember of this, there's 4 different gods, 4 different heirs, and they all come together to the City of Dusk, and they're trying to like prevent the city from collapsing. Let's see. The 4 realms, life, death, light, and darkness, all converge on the City of Dusk, ruled by the 4 noble houses of Nexus. So the city is crumbling because the gods have like withdrawn their favor, and so the 4 heirs come together trying to save it. The 4 heirs are trying to sacrifice everything to save the city, but it says their defiance will cost them highly. So it's a little bit vague, but it sounds really good. So this is a good pick, even though I'm just like, I think because it's edging on winter, when I get into really deep high fantasies that are like slower or darker, sometimes I don't want it because I'm just depressed because it's winter and cold and dreary. But I think this will be good because I was really excited about this when it first came out. So this will be good for me to be able to get to. So this is the last pick for November. All right, everyone, well, that is it for today's video. Please comment down below and let me know what you think of these picks for November, if you've read any of them, or if you want to read any of them. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.